Hi.
Hi. Are we ready?
Ready as I'm ever gonna be.
Cool.
Yep, that's about it. I'm done. Did you like my part? I did it.
That was it.
It was great.
Welcome
Hi.
to episode 33,
Woo.
I think,
Yeah.
of Jess and Hits Make a Podcast. I'm Jess, in case anybody has forgotten the sound of my voice in
Jess.
association with my name, because we don't introduce ourselves.
We don't. You just always go first, so they know Jess goes first.
Well, we'll see.
And I'm Hids.
I'm still determined to keep rolling the dice.
I know. It's fun to not know.
Yeah.
I'm Hids. I always go second, except for like the 8 times I haven't.
Good times.
Good times.
Yeah.
What's new with you?
What is new?
Same. Yeah. Same.
Yeah, nothing. It's summertime, so it's kind of busy for both jobs, both of our money-making jobs, not
Yeah.
this job, our fake jobs.
Our fake
we like to
jobs.
call them. Because podcasting is our real job, but podcasting does not pay the bills, unfortunately. Yet. But like summertime is really busy.
Mm-hmm.
It is now a holiday weekend, so the week leading up to this weekend was also super busy.
Thursday night, we got home at 3:30.
3:30 in the morning from making pies.
Friday night, we got home at 2. So we're a little tired. But such is life.
I
right
would
now.
like to say that next week is going to be better, but it's
yeah,
actually,
no,
it's the entire month of July that is
It's
just
nonstop.
crazy.
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah. But, hey, we're going to have fun recording this podcast.
Yeah, we are. I always do. This is, I won't say it's stressful to do the research, but I always worry that I'm going to miss something or
Yeah.
read something incorrectly or, just kind of not
have enough
not
or
get it
have
as
too much.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
But also like, we do have other jobs and this is, some of the topics that we've had, we probably could have talked about for hours, but we can't do that in a podcast. So at least in this podcast, it would be not fun.
Yeah. I don't know how many listeners we'd lose if we had like 3 or 4 hour.
A 3 or 4 hour
podcast
episode. That would, yeah. I think that would probably, people would be like, yeah, no, not listen to this.
Yeah.
Skip. So yeah, I always like do my notes and then I go, okay, I've got this. And then it's time to record and I'm like, this is going to be terrible. I didn't do enough research or I covered all the wrong thing and it's not going to be interesting, so.
Yeah. There were several times just 10 minutes ago where I was like, okay, I'm done with my notes. Oh, wait, no, hang on. There was something else. Oh, wait. Okay, now I'm done. No, I'm not.
But this morning I was like, okay, I think I don't know, you came into the office around 10 and I was like, I think I'm done with my notes. Okay. And then I was like, oh, wait, I did want to look up one thing. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Wait, let me add this in. And then, because it went down a whole nother thing, which I'm actually going to push over into our bonus content for the patrons.
Sweet. I might have bonus content.
If you don't, that's okay, because I have a lot of bonus content.
Good. Mine might just be additional details about the thing.
I have coffee and I have flavored water, sparkling water. It's good.
Cool story, bro.
I'm trying to hydrate, okay?
Okay. Hydrate, you thirsty little ramens. This is your PSA to all of our listeners to, stay hydrated. Okay. Should we get into it?
Dive into it? Yeah.
I don't really have anything else to talk about.
I mean, the only other exciting thing is like we ordered office furniture and carpet.
Oh, we did. Yeah, we're going to
redo our office.
We're going to revamp our space here.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Woo.
Woo.
Okay, let's roll. Oh, well, I got a 13.
Oh, no.
You got a 19.
I bumped yours to a 20,
you
so you
did,
go first.
But no, that's not how this works.
Okay, it's actually, I don't mind going first because I am actually excited about my topic. I'm excited about every topic. I do like our topics and I do get excited. Let's go into our topic, my topic. See, I'm not used to going first. I'm like waiting for you to do your bit. And I'm like, oh, wait.
Would it help if I pretended that I just went like, oh, that's it for me. What do you have?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was really, really interesting.
Cool.
I don't remember any of it, but that's not your fault. You delivered it well, and it was well done. And I'm fully excited to learn about that thing that you talked about.
Great.
So I'm going to talk to you about this.
You're excited to learn about the thing that I just talked about?
Yeah. It was an exciting process for me. I'm hoping to relive it later. Okay, cool. That did help. I can talk about my topic now.
Okay.
In the Twin Cities of St. Paul, Minneapolis, Minnesota, in 1969.
Wait. What? The Twin Cities of
St. Paul and Minneapolis? They're called the Twin Cities? Aren't they in Minnesota?
Okay.
Where are they at?
Say that again. I'm so confused. I don't know geography. The Twin Cities.
The Twin Cities. St. Paul and Minneapolis are called the Twin Cities.
And Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. Okay. I heard St. Paul in Minneapolis. I was so confused. Is it called the Twins? Okay. Okay. I'm good. I'm with you now.
Okay.
St. Paul.
Minneapolis. Isn't that where where Eloise Butler did her garden?
I don't know.
I think it was. It's also where Prince lived.
Okay.
Anyway, in 1969, there was a 24-year-old student at the University of Minnesota named David Wesley. He was putting together a little session with some of his friends where they acted out Napoleonic War scenarios in the fictional town of Braunstein.
Okay.
Anyway.
I don't you're looking at me like I should be able to guess
no,
what you're talking about.
It's
I have
fine.
no idea where you're going with this.
I'm purposely leaving words out of
Okay.
this. So normally when he would set these sessions up, they would involve 8 people, 2 people who were the main players, and then 6 people who just were spectators, which sounds really weird to me. I'm like, okay. Anyway, at this session, 20 people showed up, and David was like, well, crap. I got 20 people who are just going to be sitting around doing nothing. So he invented other parts for them to play. And he says, you're all going to get your orders from a referee in a separate room. You're not going to share any information with each other. You're just going to do your thing as decided by this referee. You're going to come into the room and we're going to run through this war game. And then one player who was playing a Prussian officer and another player who was playing a radical pro-French student decided to duel, which was against the rules. They were like, hey, I'm this, you're that, we're going to fight. And David was like, well, crap, what am I going to do? Okay, we're going to make some rules. I'm going to roll some dice.
Are we talking about the history of D&D?
I knew you'd get there at the end. So, yeah, we're going to talk about the history of D&D.
Sweet.
Which was on our list, but was also very recently, as I was doing these notes, recommended as a topic for us from Will. So we're gonna dedicate this one to Will.
Yeah, thanks, Will.
Thanks, Will. So yeah, David Wesley had this game session, and he thought it was chaotic and a complete and utter failure because it wasn't what he had planned for the night.
Well, that's how I feel.
Welcome to D&D, my friend. That's how it runs. You plan a thing, and then it goes off the rails, and you're like, you know what? Well, everybody had fun, so that's all that mattered. Elsewhere, Jeff Perrin, who was a hobby shop manager, started making some rules for something called the Siege of Bodenberg, which he discovered at Gen Con 1 in Lake Geneva. Gen Con 1 is a whole big thing, which is insane, and I can't even go down that one. But it's basically a gaming convention. It is the biggest gaming convention in the world.
Is it still going?
Still going.
Cool.
It has taken on many different iterations, and there all is now like Gen Con East, Gen Con West, Gen Con SoCal, Gen Con UK, Gen Con Europe, just to name a few.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. They started out, the very first Gen Con was in the house of Gary Gygax with him and his friends. It had 9 attendees.
And they called it a con.
Okay. It kind of earned the name of the con later. It's referred to as Gen Con 0. And then it became Gen Con 1, which had 75 attendees the next year.
Oh, okay. You could call that a con.
Yeah. Now they're running about 30 to 50,000 attendees.
Yeah.
over, at the main one that's held in Indiana until next year, after which they're revamping their contract and possibly leaving the state for a variety of issues.
Oh.
Because of political choices that Indiana has made.
Oh. That
do not align with Gen Con's inclusivity.
All right.
So, but that's all I'm going to say about that. We're going to go back to talking about D&D. In 1971, Gary Gygax took this concept of war games that kind of was already a thing and that he already played with some of his friends and added a fantasy concept to it. He called his first iteration Chainmail. In addition to his basic rules, he added a 14-page fantasy supplement that included jousting rules, combat rules, spells, one of which is Fireball, and a bestiary.
I would have commented on that, but I was yawning. I'm sorry.
That's fine. And a bestiary of fantastic creatures such as dragons, elves, and orcs inspired by Tolkien's work. So that kind of is like the very basics of taking this typical wargaming concept of like kind of reenacting old wars that you had historical references for and pulling it into a different kind of fantasy realm. Dave Arneson was in these sessions and he started creating new scenarios, also drawing inspiration from The Lord of the Rings, Dark Shadows, and this fantasy supplement. They also drew.
I had no idea Dark Shadows was sort of an inspiration.
A soap opera, apparently. And I'm
no, I know what it is.
I'm like, and then I was like, wait, it's funny because like I don't think of Dark Shadows as a soap opera, but I haven't actually watched the whole thing. So no, I haven't watched that one at all. I was like, wait, I'm confusing it with
they did
What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh yeah,
yeah. My brain is going. Boop, boop, boop.
Yeah. Dark Shadows was, I'm going to say recently, but it's been like maybe over 5 years, but it was a movie based on
the
old Dark
Shadows.
I'm
thinking of the movie.
It was Johnny Depp. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I'm thinking of the movie. Yeah. And I didn't realize like my brain did not connect the two because I was What We Do in the Shadows was in my head.
Yeah.
So in 1971, Dave Arneson went to Lake Geneva to Gen Con and said, hey, Gary, check this out. They had already collaborated on some other games. And then they came together and were like, let's make this into something because this is really cool. And once they came together, they just called it Fantasy Game. And during the final process of writing the rules and the text, Gary Gygax asked his 2-year-old daughter, Cindy, to pick a name. And she chose her favorite, Dungeons and Dragons.
Aw, that's cute.
I think that's adorable.
That's the 2-year-old?
A 2-year-old. He had a list of names and he was like, pick your favorite.
That's cute.
And she said, Dungeons and Dragons. So after 2 years of works, they completed the first 3 booklets that would make up the core game: Men and Magic, Monster and Treasure, and Wilderness and Dungeon Adventures. This first edition featured 4 species: human, dwarves, elves, and hobbits, 3 classes: fighter, magic user, and cleric, and for the first time in a game, individual stats for each character. So up until that point, war games had stats for whole units, and they didn't have any individual stats per person or abilities. Yeah, it was just what the unit could do as a whole. 1973, they have their game, and they just get rejected. And so they said, you know what? Let's just make our own publishing company.
Sweet.
TSR, or Tactical Studies Rules, was founded with a budget of $2,000, and they made their stuff by hand. The first 1,000 copies of Dungeons & Dragons came into production in January of 1974, and it was a box set that contained 3 booklets, sold for $10, and had an expansion set of dice for $3.50.
Wow.
They sold out in 10 months. Second run came out and sold out within 5 months, and by the end of 1975, 6,000 plus copies had been sold. In 1975, a shift came in the game. Gary Gygax ran his own campaign, and I forgot the other guy's name, Dave Arneson, sorry. He ran his own campaign. So Gygax developed a Greyhawk expansion, which introduced Thief and Paladin classes, and Arneson released an expansion called Blackmoor, which added the Monk and Assassin classes. And then they also released 2 more expansions that same year, Eldritch Wizardry, which introduced Druid and Psionics, and Gods, Demigods, and Heroes, which provided a pantheon for the game. They also, once they had this all the basis, they split the game into two parts. So there was basic Dungeons and Dragons, which was targeting your general audience with simplified rules. And there was advanced Dungeons and Dragons aimed at the more experienced players.
Leave it to the nerds to divide
Leave
things
it
up.
to the nerds.
This is for the smart people, and this is just for the commoners.
This is as we the crunchy number people.
Yeah,
the people who just want to let's just roll some dice and go.
Yeah,
right?
Let's just have fun.
I find myself in the middle because I like a little bit of stat stuff, but I'm here for the story. The standard core rule books that all players know now, the Player's Handbook, the Monster Manual, and the Dungeon Master's Guide came out in 1977. They went through many revisions between 77 and 95. It got confusing for a little bit because people are like, we have two versions of this game and they're not compatible with each other because of the way like the advanced D&D was very crunchy numbery and had a lot of rules. I'm not going to even go on my Thaco tangent that I put over on the sidebar. I was like, I started reading about that and I was like, okay.
Now for people who have no idea.
That's an entire different podcast topic.
Is it Thaco or Thaco?
I've heard it both ways.
Okay.
It's the shortened version of to hit armor class 0.
Yeah.
So when this came out, like, I can't even go into that. It's all about, there's a lot of subtraction, but I did read a thing that it was like simpler because at that time you knew like if you were a rogue, you had a specific armor class and it only changed if the DM gave you something to change it. So like now we have different things like, in certain situations, your armor class can go up by 2, or you have this thing that kicks it up. So like armor classes can vary widely. So Thaco was very much a simplified version of it. And that's the end of that tangent because that's not what we're here talking about. But despite the fact that these two versions were incompatible and there was confusion among players, like which rules you were following based on which version and who you're playing with, in that time period, it sold 1.5 million copies.
Dang.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you went from selling 1,000 copies to 1.5 million in just a handful of years.
Yeah.
In 1989, the second edition of Advanced D&D was released, introduced new rules and new characters, but this kind of also marked the decline of TSR. They had a lot of success and they had annual profits, but they started to lose their dominance in the market because more and more people were kind of doing other versions of TTRPGs or tabletop role-playing games. Mm-hmm. So a lot of other things were starting to come out. People were like, oh, I like this, but this fits my idea more. Mm-hmm. Or I like this new thing. I like this new thing. So they're competition-wise. They're starting to get competition and it's starting to hurt their, kind of hold on the market. They also attempted to enter the collectible card game sector, which was really popular.
Yeah.
And that they put a bunch of money in that, but kind of didn't really take off in that department. Mm-hmm. By the end of 1966, they were over $30 million in debt. And at the end of 1997, they were at the brink of bankruptcy. And they were acquired by Wizards of the Coast.
In 97?
1997. Okay. And Wizards of the Coast at that time was known for Magic the Gathering.
Wait, Magic the Gathering has been around since then?
Magic Gathering has been around for a while, yes.
Oh, okay.
I know. Like
I could never get into that.
I never got into it, but like I knew of its existence because
I didn't even know about it until college.
I would go to comic book stores and be like, what are they doing over there? Oh, playing cards. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's a whole, Magic the Gathering is insane. That's a whole other podcast topic for another day that I would not even, I don't know.
I don't think we're going to do that.
I don't know enough about, like, I know so little about it that I would not do it justice. And I feel like Magic the Gathering people would be like, ugh. I know. They would get mad at me for missing.
Played before.
So you know more than I do.
Well, I don't remember anything. And it wasn't fun.
The closest I came to Magic the Gathering is looking at the packs of cards on the shelf at a game store.
Yeah, and being like, ooh,
like, cool art.
Some are shiny and some are not.
Yeah. What does this mean? Yeah. It's just not my thing. I have a lot of friends who play and collect, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't. In 1999, Wizards of the Coast was acquired by Hasbro. For 3 years after their purchase, Wizards of the Coast worked on merging basic D&D with advanced D&D and simplifying the rules. So in 2000, the third edition of Dungeons and Dragons was released, which introduced the D20 system.
Oh.
Yeah.
What did they just use, like,
they were just
D6s?
using D6s and the other dice to kind of like roll for things. Yeah. I was just like, what?
All right.
I thought that was always a thing.
I know.
Because it came with the dice. Like the first game came with dice, but it wasn't really based on the D20 being the end all be all of making your decisions.
Interesting.
Like, if you don't play D&D, the D20 die is a 20-sided die. And that's the die that you say, I want to do a thing, and you roll the die to see how well you do the thing.
Yeah. All the other die is
how much heart damage or healing you do based on what your D20 roll is. So like everything kind of focuses on the D20 die of being the determination of failure or success.
Yeah. Which
I think it was cool. I didn't realize that was in 2000.
Yeah. That's wow.
Right? Right. I was like, I read that and I was like, I went back a couple of times. And I'm like, it is 2000. Like they didn't mess up the dates or anything. But in 2003, a revised version, 3.5, was released, which featured about 100 minor adjustments.
I'm going to backtrack a little bit and say, that's crazy. That I just had like that scene in Stranger Things in mind when they're all playing D&D and they're all rolling D20s. So like that's not even accurate in the edition that they would have been playing back then.
They did have the dice, but it wasn't like the format of it was a little
but that's like specifically what they did in that game is they rolled the D20 to hit. And it was interesting. I would like to I thought about that too. Like I was like, wait a minute, 2000, that was in 1980. Wait, hang on. I don't really know anything about any of the earlier versions, so I don't know how it was played. So
same. Okay, so in 2003, 3.5 came out, version 3.5, and it had a lot of adjustments to refine the rules. And this is also when Wizards of the Coast put the game under open gaming license.
Ah, that is
which that's going to come back later. that term's going to come back later in my tab under controversy. But the open gaming license kind of allowed small developers or personal players to use the system for new creations, and like publishers could kind of create their own
write their own
adventures and write their own, like they could build characters, they could build magic items, they could create new spells, they could do a lot of what we call homebrew. But it also protect the original gaming license, for the actual D&D license was protected, but allowed this other stuff to be built underneath it. We'll talk about that later. But
I did a deep dive in the actual OGL when we were considering writing our own adventures, and we still are. That's still like a thing that we would hope to be able to do someday. But I won't go into it.
It's not as open as it used to be.
Yeah,
but
definitely
it is
not.
Reopened.
It's more restrictive.
I mean, we could come into this because my controversies just barely touches on this because there's a lot of other stuff that I'm going to go into there. But so the open gaming license came under fire in 2023.
A couple years ago,
I want to say 23. I don't want to scroll all the way down because I'll lose my place. They were basically like, yep, that doesn't exist anymore. And all you people who are doing all your homebrew stuff can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And they were
the people who are publishing and making money off of it.
People were making money off of this because they're creating their own content just using the structure that is, the basics of D&D game.
Yeah.
Like people were like, I'm sorry, what? And like they lost huge numbers of subscribers on their website. There was a lot of stuff, but to their credit, they did listen to their fan base and they kind of backpedaled quite a bit.
Yeah. They sort of rewrote. They just revamped the OGL.
So now, like, if you create content, there are specific things you have to put in your notes about where the content is from and how it's related.
All the legalese stuff.
There's a lot of legalese stuff that you have to put in there. So I am like, I'm glad they did that. Like, I think they made a corporate decision, and then the people who actually play said, hey, that's really dumb.
Hey, you're going to lose all of the people that are
that's
giving you money.
That's going to hurt you really, really bad.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, okay.
Oh, right.
And corporate actually did listen and kind of backpedaled. So kudos to them. I guess. But Anyway, so let's get back into our history because that was in OGL came out in 2003.
Okay. Sorry for the tangent.
No, that's fine. Hey, this is a podcast on tangents, right? In 2007 at Gen Con, whatever number it was, in 2007, they announced that a 4th edition of D&D would be released in June of 2008. They simplified the rules and introduced a lot of changes to make the gameplay more intuitive and faster paced. I have never played 4th edition. I've heard a lot of bad reviews. Like people didn't like it as much. And then in 2014, for their 40th anniversary, they introduced the 5th edition.
I'm learning a lot because in my brain, for some reason, because 5th edition is the edition that I learned back in, 2016, 2017? All the other past editions in my brain were 90s and earlier.
Yeah.
So like hearing that 4th edition came out in 2007, I was in college. Like, it's just weird.
Yeah,
weird
I know. Like, it's weird to me.
Yeah.
Like, the timeline of it. I was going like, wow, this is actually relatively recent. 5th edition in 2014 was a collaborative development involving more than 75,000 playtesters.
Dang.
Which I kind of love. Like, let's ask the people that are playing this game to help us make it better.
Yeah.
Which is just a brilliant concept. It became the best-selling edition of all time with over 15 million players in the United States alone.
Yeah.
Which is like, wow, crazy.
Yeah.
It's chaos.
Going off in so
D&D
many
is
tangents.
massively, well, it's chaos. That is.
Well, it's collaborative storytelling. You're going to have some chaos. So
It really is. And I think that's what I love about it, is the storytelling aspect of this. And you have a location, and then you just kind of, and a mission, I guess, and then just kind of run off in random tangents.
Yeah.
Which is perfect. Okay. All right. Back to my notes. 5e, 15 million players in the United States alone. In 2019, there was an interview with Dan Barrett, who was the senior brand manager at the time. He said that there were nearly 40 million players worldwide compared to 20 million in 2004.
Dang.
In 2024, which was the 50th anniversary, the number had reached 50 million players worldwide.
Wow.
Which is crazy for a game. Like, there's versions of kind of like Monopoly has millions of players all over the world, and but there's different versions everywhere you go, and they're all played slightly differently.
Jazz up Monopoly any way you want it. I'm still going to hate it.
I still hate it.
Boring.
It has destroyed friendships, and it should not be allowed to continue, but it still does.
Yeah. It's just boring.
It is.
I didn't even get competitive with it. It's just so boring.
Merchandise for D&D sells very well, much like the core rule books. I mean, just looking at rule books, you have your main 3 that you need.
Well, and like adventure books and
campaigns, modules, dice. Don't get me started on dice.
Supplementary books with like additional creatures and stats and all that. It's and freaking dice. I know.
Freaking dice and miniatures have become a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get miniatures. You can go on Hero Forge is a website that you can craft minis to fit your character and have them printed, or you can 3D print them at home. I mean, the 3D printing has been a huge boon to home, in real life players.
Yeah.
Where you can just create a monster and print it out and have the figurine. Like, it's just insane. Like, it's
cool.
That is a rabbit hole that I'm actually glad we don't play in real life games, because it would be bad for me. It would be, because I would be like, well, we have to build a diorama to represent the state. It would be really bad.
I don't know if I would really get into minis, but I would be all in on the map making.
You do the maps, I'll do the minis.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
No. We don't play in person.
We don't play in person. Which is, like I said, very
all of our
good.
players live in different states and in different countries, so that's cool.
I actually meant to look it up and link it. I will find it and link it, but there is, a couple years ago, there was a news, not documentary, but just like a news report on this guy in Canada who's been playing the same campaign with the same players for like 30 years.
How? no.
And in his basement, he has built this huge, like he has massive dioramas.
Oh, man.
And crates and crates and crates of miniatures that they've collected and built and painted over the years. And just, but they've been playing this same storyline with these characters. And I'm just like, that's insane.
Yeah.
But like, I just think about like the friendships I have made in the few years I've been playing, and to play with the same people for such a length of time, like
that's really cool.
The bond that they must have is just crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's nuts.
That's cool.
Okay, back to my. This is going to be. I told you, I was like, mine has a timeline, but there's going to be a lot of tangents. Remember, I said that.
Yeah,
that's where we're going. Okay, so the merchandise sells very well, along with all your core rule books, your expansions, your miniatures, your campaigns, your modules, video games. I did not even get into the huge array of video games.
Yeah,
that are.
I don't associate video games with D&D.
You don't?
Yeah.
But there is a massive list of video games from the 80s onward that are based on the core rules of D&D.
Wow.
Even though they may not they may not be like D&D based games. Mm-hmm. The play style, the stat style, just the way you move through the game is so tied to D&D's core rules and mechanics, which I think is fascinating. Yeah. I didn't know that. Baldur's Gate 3 was released in 2023 and set in the D&D universe.
Yeah.
And Baldur's Gate has been around for a while. But when Baldur's Gate 3 came out, it seemed like everybody I talked to online was like, I've been heads down in Baldur's Gate 3 for the past 18 hours or something. Like, it's so great. It's so great, And it sold 15 million copies in 5 months.
Jeez.
And generated nearly $250 million in revenue, which is insane.
Yeah.
The month it was released, it attracted 106 million viewers on Twitch, which, if you don't know, Twitch is a streaming platform where you can play a game and other people will watch you.
Play games. Yeah.
I mean, you could do a lot of different things. I've used to follow a couple artists who would paint or craft their art on Twitch.
Yeah.
And it is really like you can watch people 3D print. It's insane.
It's cool.
It's very cool. 106 million viewers for this game, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
Also in 2019, D&D represented almost 72 million hours of content watched on Twitch and 9 million online viewers over the year following live streamed games.
Wow.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, what? So I want to get into a little bit of people who play D&D.
Hey.
And like
we do.
The
end.
50 million people around the world play D&D. But we're going to talk a little bit about celebrities that play D&D. I love the question the way this writer put it. Let's ask ourselves the following question. Who the heck plays Dungeons and Dragons?
Okay.
Well, 50 million people.
Yeah.
Like we said, we play. A lot of our friends play, and a lot of celebrities play.
Yeah.
We're going to start with two of the biggest ones, Vin Diesel and Stephen Colbert. Talk about diametric opposites there.
Yeah. Well, that Joe guy holds game in.
Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about Joe, too.
Yeah.
Vin Diesel actually wrote the foreword for the book 30 Years of Adventure, a celebration of D&D, which came out in 2004.
Cool.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I knew he played because I've seen a few clips of him playing like with, in live games and stuff. But he, in this forward, he explains his love for the creative aspect, finding voices and characters, or finding voices for the characters that you play. Mm-hmm. I always have a voice in my head for our characters that we throw at our players, but I never can. I'm not good with voices.
Yeah.
And it always devolves into a bad British accent. So I just quit doing it. But yeah, like the creative aspect of the game is where I know I find my kind of foothold. I know you do too, like just kind of coming up with fun scenarios and characters and storylines. And that's just part of it.
Yeah.
Which I love. I think like we always go back storytelling.
Yeah.
Stephen Colbert, I love him just as a character. He had the Stephen Colbert Show and he was the host of the Late Show. And he's always like the ultimate Lord of the Rings fan.
Yeah.
But he's also talked a lot about how much he loves playing D&D. He did the Red Nose the charity game for the Red Nose charity out of the UK. He played with a one-on-one game with Matt Mercer.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. and it was so well done. And it was just watching him like react to the story was just a joy.
He had a little bee animal companion.
Yeah, a little bee animal companion, which was adorable.
Was it like Sir Timothy?
It was like Sir something.
Yeah.
I should have looked it up more, but I just was like.
Yeah, that was a cute little thing.
D.B. Weiss and David Beinoff, who wrote, they wrote Game of Thrones, the show.
Mm-hmm.
They did an interview with the Hollywood Reporter, and they explained how D&D is such a valuable school for learning the basics of storytelling and world building.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's
agree.
how we got started.
I mean, yeah, like we started our writing careers, I'm going to say careers, it's going to happen. Our writing started with just kind of interactions between our characters off screen.
Yeah.
Where they just have conversations as they talk through a problem that we were dealing with in game or whatever. And then it just kind of built. We make words really good.
Yeah.
It kind of built off of that where we started creating, more characters not involved in any games and just writing little scenes and stuff and coming up with books.
Yeah.
These two, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, are part of a group made up of Tom Morello, who is the guitarist for Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn, Paul White, who is a wrestler, and Joe, I can never say his last name, Manganiello. I'm so sorry if that's wrong.
I don't know.
I'm so sorry, Joe.
If you're listening, Joe.
I'm really sorry that I cannot possibly pronounce your name right, even though I've heard it 100 times. He has a game that he plays regularly in his house. He has built the whole basement of his house into a setting where they have it's just insane.
Yeah.
I mean, there you can go online and they do mention a video from Variety.
He did like a video tour of his little
basement that's just kind of all decked out. Yeah. Like it looks like a dungeon. It's really crazy, but they play regularly. And he's actually wrote a script for a D&D movie.
Oh.
Which I'm like, make it happen.
They should do that.
Yes. Yes.
The actual D&D movie, sure, it got mixed reviews, but I think it did better than anybody would have expected. So
it got its budgets back and then some, which is important. And I think it does need to, we need more. We need more.
I think so.
So we're talking about celebrities that play.
Yes.
Critical Role. I think you either love it, you hate it, or you're indifferent. Honestly, this was one of the first
actual play.
There's a name for it now. I think it's called actual play.
It is actual. There are actual play podcasts and actual play YouTube
videos and Twitch streaming where you can just watch people play the game. Which, when you think about watching someone play a game, you're like, what? But trust me, it's really fun.
This particular game, I get that way about video games. I don't want to sit and watch somebody play a video game, but in this particular game, Dungeons and Dragons, you are telling a story. So you are able to watch people play a game and a story unfold. So it's fun. I don't know.
And Critical Role, I started watching it in their first streaming when they first started streaming, and they were halfway through their campaign, and they are just friends who hung out and played and were like, hey, let's try this out.
They're all voice actors.
I'm going to give their names and some of what they've done. Which Ashley Johnson plays Ellie in The Last of Us Part 1 and 2, the video game. These are voice actors.
Yeah.
Laura Bailey is also in The Last of Us Part 2. Travis Willingham has a huge list of characters, but they mention Knuckles in Sonic.
Oh, yeah.
Liam O'Brien, I love Liam, played voices in League of Legends. Taliesin Jaffe, they've been in hundreds of games as voice actor, and we did meet them in at Gallifrey 1 a couple years ago. They were at actually Gen Con, which was happening nearby. And we happened to see them and stopped, and they took a picture and chatted a bit and moved on with our day. It was really cool.
I liked my shirt.
I liked your shirt. Which one was that? That was
it was a Doctor Who shirt. It was all the doctors as dogs.
Oh yeah. That was a cute shirt. Marisha Ray, who's been in games like Persona 4 and Fallout. Sam Riegel, who played the voice of Donatello in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Matthew Mercer, who has voiced hundreds of characters in Baldur's Gate 3 and Ganondorf in Zelda Breath of the Wild. I mean, their YouTube is so successful. I think they pretty much just do this full time now.
Yeah, this is their job now.
This is their job now. Voice acting is a side thing. They have an animated series and a comic book series, The Legend of Vox Machina, which is their first campaign. It's on Amazon Prime. I haven't watched the series. I have read, I think, like the first 4 comic books. Like I did listen to I did watch almost all of the first campaign. I got detracted and I'm so lost now. I would have to watch it all again. And that's just hours and hours of time I don't have.
Yeah.
If you're interested, I would recommend them. I would also recommend the Adventure Zone.
The Adventure Zone. See, that was the actual play podcast that I started listening to before Critical Role.
Yeah, you were doing the Adventure Zone and I was doing Critical Role. And when we kind of like came together in the game we were playing, we were like, you're like, oh no, I like this one. I was like, oh, I like this one.
Yeah. And then I didn't actually get you to listen to the Adventure Zone until you moved here.
Yeah, I moved here.
We were just like, I think we were doing pies and I was like, you know what, I'm going to turn on this podcast because I want to listen to it again.
Yeah. And I'm like, I love this.
Yes.
It's so good. I like listening to that one because like it started a little rough because they were learning to play as you go. And they had a lot of fun with it. And the story kind of grew and they really got into their characters.
Yeah.
So much more in depth as it continued on.
Yeah.
And I find that it's that way with our game. Like when you start a game with a new character, you don't fully know them well.
Yeah, you don't know them.
You have an idea of who they might be, but then things happen and they kind of grow as characters. You know, things happen. They may be like, you know, oh, I'm kind of don't like to talk to people. I'm standoffish. I just want to be by myself. But then you're thrust in with this group of adventurers and things happen and you bond and then you come out of your shell, I guess, or you become like really connected to the other players and the other characters and stuff and the other players.
And the players, when you're comfortable to sort of come out of your shell a little bit and step into the role of your character. It's kind of a nerve-wracking thing. You just want to like sit quietly and just play a game and roll some dice when you're told to. But it's so much fun to watch players be like, okay, hang on, what would my character do?
And then seeing like some of our players really, like we've taught beforehand when we're planning the sessions, like, I think this, you know, I kind of think this person will do this or that person will do this. And then it happens and they do something totally opposite of what is expected, but is perfectly in character.
Yeah.
And I just like those moments are like, yes. Like, it's just like, yes, this is why we play.
Yeah.
For this kind of this moment.
It's really cool seeing players just kind of look up from their character sheet that has all the numbers and all the stats and be like, no, my character would actually do this other thing because it works for the story.
Yeah. And I love that because like collaborative storytelling, that's what this game is about. And I love when everybody's all in on that. That's what I just love about this game.
Yeah.
Like that whole thing. I have no idea where I'm at in my notes.
I'm sorry.
No, it's completely fine. Like this is fun for me, and I was worried that it was going to actually take this direction. But
celebrities who play D&D, we were talking about Critical Role and the Adventure Zone.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's where we went.
Yeah,
I have a few more. Let's see. There were also some other podcasts like Dimension 20. Which is hosted by Brennan Lee Mulligan.
It's now called Worlds Beyond Number.
And they have a Patreon and different...
Yeah, they just recently, I mean, fairly recently, it's been several weeks, maybe a couple months, that they started a new campaign. And I want to get into it. And I keep saying I'm going to listen to it, but I have not.
We're kind of stuck on Stray Kids. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
There's also a podcast called Dungeons and Daddies.
Oh, I hear good things about that.
I hear good things. And it's basically dads have to save their children in the Forgotten Realms. And it is utter chaos from what I've heard. And those are all like US based. There are other ones all around the world. And the only ones mentioned in the article that I read is, I'm going to try to say this, Le Bon Auberge, something in France.
Le Bon Auberge?
Oh, yeah. I'm not French and I don't speak the language at all, so I'm sorry for that. But anyway, and it has a spinoff called D and Drags, which features drag queens playing D&D. And I've seen like a few clips of that. Utterly hilarious. Remember our favorite show, Adventure Time?
Uh-huh.
Pendleton Ward, who wrote it and created it, said that he was highly influenced by D&D.
Oh, for sure. There's gelatinous cubes.
There's gelatinous cubes. There's D&D references all through that, which I love. Rick and Morty.
Uh-huh.
And then Community has D&D in it.
Yes,
and then
D&D episodes are my favorite.
And Dan Harmon, who is the showrunner for Community and Rick and Morty, plays Morty. My brain wanted to say Moriarty. And I was like, that's not right. He plays regularly with his friends, which includes Aubrey Plaza, Kumail Nanjiani, and oh no, that's all they were. I was going to say, and the Marvel movie Eternals, but that's like not. That's what Kumail was in.
You play with the Eternals?
I was like, well, let's play this. I want to do this. How do we get in on that game? So they play in Harmon Quest, which is an animated series as well. But they also play together, like as friends, which I think is just cool. I don't know. Sometimes like it's weird to me that celebrities have friends and they just hang out and do normal things.
I know, like with other celebrities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going to run through a list of names of other people because some of these I knew and some I didn't. Jon Favreau. Mm-hmm. And he says that actually playing D&D had a huge impact on his career and gave him a solid background in storytelling. Yes. Uh-huh. That's what it is. Matthew Lillard.
Yeah.
And Stephen King, Mike Myers, Will Wheaton, Tim Duncan, who's an NBA player, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, which I knew I've seen like clips of him playing. Uh-huh. Drew Barrymore.
Oh, that's
Did not know she played.
Yeah.
And Robin Williams, who I would love to. Did anybody video those sessions? Because I would love to watch Robin Williams play D&D. And Deborah Ann Wall. And I'm going to link a video of hers that I watched an interview where she talked about how much the game enriched her life and helped her in her career as an actress.
I don't know who that is.
She was in Daredevil and True Blood.
Oh, that one. Okay. There is a video clip of her explaining to John Bernthal how to play D&D. She kind of runs him through a little mini session with no dice or anything. She's just cool. What would you do if you were walking through a forest and came across an owlbear? And then he was immediately well, is this a dangerous creature? Do I know anything about it? And she's like, well, this is when your DM would make you roll a nature check. And let's say you get a high roll. So yeah, you know that owlbears are very territorial and they can kill you. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, okay, do I have any weapons with me? Or has it seen me? He just immediately gets into it.
And that's the fun of this. I watched an interview and I can't remember who the person was, but they were somebody, it was an actor and they were talking about to someone being interviewed and they were like, so D&D, that seems really weird and off the wall. And they're like, no, listen. And they were like, okay, so let's say you're walking down, and it was that similar thing.
Yeah. And
they're like, so what would you do? And the guy's like, I don't know. And he's like, come on, play with me here. What would you do if this happened? And he kind of walked him through a little quick scenario. Mm-hmm. And the guy was like, I want to play now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all it is. I want to play. And yeah. So, and that's really all it is.
Yeah.
Is you're kind of set in a scene and what would you do right now?
Yeah.
This is the information you have before you. And you could ask questions. And then your dungeon master, your games master gives you information based on either on the roles or what they know about your character already. Uh-huh. And I just that's just fun for me.
Yeah.
I just yeah, this is what we do. It's fun. It's so funny because my next line is a line from the article. This short break turned out to be longer than expected. So let's resume our journey.
Yeah.
We're going to touch a little bit on the legacy. And we did a little bit already. It's left its mark on cinema, fiction, and the gaming world. And they didn't Gary Gygax didn't invent tabletop role-playing games. Mm-hmm. Those already existed, but they were very kind of strict and very in units. So, you had a military unit or something and it was kind of along those lines. But they formalized the foundations of it, having a character sheet, having the dice, help decide what to do, stats for each character based on kind of what you've experienced through life. You have your different stats. Like we said before, the cooperative approach, collaborative storytelling, mm-hmm. kind of building a story within the confines of the rules to a point.
Yeah.
I mean, one of Gary Gygax's famous quote is the rule of cool outweighs the rules as written. And I'm here for that. I live by that. I'm like, what do you want to do? we've had players. I probably can't do this, but no. What do you want to do?
Just
tell me
what you want to do.
We'll see what we can make happen. And we've had some really fun stuff happen.
Yeah.
So basically, they kind of formalized this basis of foundation of RPGs, kind of taking it to the next level from where it was.
Yeah.
So you have Call of Cthulhu, inspired by Lovecraft, which is one of the cornerstones of RPG games.
Yeah.
Then you have other games, Chivalry and Sorcery, Pathfinder, which is like probably one of the bigger ones now as well. And it's based off the 3.5 rules, but made better, but in a different direction. At the time of this article, there were over 700 role-playing games on the market, like Tales from the Loop, Alien, Cyberpunk Red, Vampire the Masquerade. In 2023, this is a $1.72 billion industry.
Dang.
From $1,000 spent in a basement.
$2,000 startup.
$2,000 startup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Insane.
Wow.
And then we have movies and TV shows and pop culture references. Between 2000 and 2012, there were 2 films and a TV movie that were released. Did not know about. They all flopped.
Oh, yeah.
The first one was featured Jeremy Irons and Marlon Wayans. And it had a $45 million budget. It only made $15 million at the box office and was nominated for the Razzie Awards, which is the worst productions of the year.
Not great.
Not
to
great.
Be nominated for.
They basically, the next 2 installments just flopped so completely. And the third film actually didn't even get a theatrical release. It was straight to DVD.
Direct to TV.
DVD. Yeah. Oof. But then 2023 came along. Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, which we talked about. $150 million budget, which they did recoup and made a little extra. Yeah. So it came out, like you said, mixed reviews. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I loved it.
Popular culture, E.T. One of the opening scenes is the kids all playing D&D. Onward, Disney's Onward, which is kind of based.
It's very cute.
Very, very D&D based. Stranger Things.
Yeah.
It's the
all
core. It's the kids use kind of D&D to put the horrors that are happening in their town into a way that they can understand it.
Yeah.
And
context they can understand.
Context, that's the word. I want season 5, please, and thank you.
Yeah. Hey, you. Anna gets on my shoulder.
And we've mentioned Community. They play D&D in Community. The Big Bang Theory played, and Will Wheaton was actually on that. Rick and Morty parody D&D in season 4. And it just kind of like all these different places. And the books, like, do we even want to get into the books? Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman and the Dragonlance universe. Over 299 books as of 2023. And then R.A. Salvatore's The Legend of Drizzt, which I'm sure I said that wrong, which has over 39 volumes. And then it says between the 1990s and the 2000s, there were 10 D&D based books published each year.
I didn't know
in that series, which I'm like, what? That's crazy. So yeah, it's had just some major influences on our society, on the creative works of a vast number of people. There are people whose entire careers are based on this now. You know, the streaming careers, the storytelling, the books, movies, references in pop culture. Yeah. And that's it. That's awesome. That's the history of D&D.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I feel like I've been talking for hours and hours and hours and I've been like skipping huge paragraphs of my notes just because like there's so much.
Yeah.
But I think I hit the high points of it.
I feel like we should do another episode.
Another episode?
Just talking about the Satanic Panic and all of that.
Oh, no, that's going to be my and another thing.
Oh, good. Yay.
Because if you've watched Stranger Things, season 4 really dives into the effects of the Satanic Panic and the focus on D&D. Also, the Satanic Panic is not what I thought it was.
Oh, it was started by a private investigator who... No?
Ooh. Oh. I'm going to go into that on another thing.
Okay.
I will give a trigger warning right now. It's nuts.
Okay.
But yes,
I always just heard that it was, the one kid who tragically committed suicide, and his parents had a private investigator look into it and totally ignoring the fact that the kid was also addicted to drugs and very
clinically depressed.
He also played D&D.
Did not have a really great home situation.
Yeah.
They put all of that aside and they focused on the fact that he played D&D.
Yeah.
And yes. Well, I'll touch on that.
Yeah.
Like, I thought the Satanic Panic was very much focused on D&D.
Oh, no. It just got a lot of other things.
It just got really swept. D&D got kind of pulled in because of two people.
Ah, okay.
And that was it. When it got pulled in, and then they kind of went off on a little tangent, and then it's just kind of like, yeah. One thing I will mention right now, which is interesting, and I'll touch on it some more. Have you ever heard of the Streisand effect?
Of like Barbara Streisand?
Yeah. Do you know like that term specifically?
Term, it does sound familiar, but you're going to have to.
So there was a study done on coastal erosion in California. And one of the Google images that they used in this study featured Barbara Streisand's house, which sits right on a cliff.
Right. Yes.
And she was like, and they mentioned it's Barbara Streisand's house. And she's like, please take my name off of there.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of got, she basically called her lawyer and said, hey, can you get them to just take my name? I don't want to be,
you don't want people looking at her house.
I don't
want
want
she's a celebrity.
Yeah. Like, I don't care if the picture's there, just don't say whose it is.
Yeah.
Which resulted in the picture that was up to that point, I think, viewed 9 times, being viewed hundreds of thousands of times.
Yeah.
So they're like, it's when you take a thing and say, don't look at this. And then everybody's like, look at the thing.
Yeah.
And
what is it that they don't want us to look at?
That's what happened with D&D. They're like, Dungeons and Dragons is bad. So every kid everywhere said, I want to play.
Really? Let's play.
And then they were like, crap, this teaches math and how to be nice to your friends. Why am I playing this? No. But literally, it's so much math. It's a lot of math.
It's okay, though, because the website D&D Beyond does it all for you.
It does, yeah. It makes it very much easier.
You just click a button and it does the math.
But yeah, the Satanic Panic, while they were trying to, this one specific person in general was trying to shut down the game, basically blew it up, made it so much more popular than it was. So
yeah,
that's the Streisand effect.
Yeah.
It's basically when you're like, don't look at a thing, and everybody wants to look at the thing.
Yeah.
So they're like, basically, if you don't want a thing to happen, just ignore it. Everybody else will too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah. So, and I'm gonna dive into that in our and another thing.
Sweet.
And right now I'm gonna stop talking
because
I feel like I've been going for hours, and
it's been an hour and 26 minutes.
Oh my gosh! I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
I can keep mine shorter. That's totally fine.
Don't. Like, I want you to do full justice yours. I'm sorry.
Well.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to shut up. What are you going to talk about?
Oh, man. Okay, so I have to actually start mine with the trigger warning. I need to get Anakin off my notes.
Get in. Here, let me see if I can get him to come to me.
Oh,
give me a butt.
Stop biting me.
Come by me, buddy.
Go that way.
Hey, sweetheart.
There we go. Okay.
Okay, let's go.
In 1824.
Okay.
At the age of 17, Francois Alteris Rosalba Sebastiani, nicknamed Fanny, married Charles Theobald de Choiseul, the Duke of Praslin. 23 years later, her murder would become a huge scandal and even contribute to the French Revolution of 1848.
What? Wait. What are you talking about?
So remember the forensic hair analysis episode?
Yes.
I mentioned this murder as being one of the notable cases in early forensics that actually used analyzed hair found on the crime scene, at the crime scene.
In the 1800s?
In the 1824. Yeah, they had been using microscopic hair analysis before then.
When were microscopes invented? I feel so stupid.
If you have the same questions, go back to episode whatever when I talk about forensic hair analysis.
Okay.
It's something to do with junk science and squonk biology, I think. What's the name of the episode? You want to find the episode number?
Yeah, I'll find it really quick.
So while she's doing that, I'm going to take a second to say, hey, trigger warning, because I am talking about a murder. I'm not going to get too gory with the details, but if true crime isn't your thing, feel free to skip my part.
Forensics?
Questionable science and squonk biology, I think is what it's called.
Episode 12.
Yeah, fairly early on.
20 episodes ago. Yeah, because that's when I did the squonk. Okay.
Yeah.
episode 12, if you want to know about when the microscope was invented and what hair forensics is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's actually when we put this topic in our deck, because I found out about this murder and I was reading about it and I was like, holy crap, this is going to be a topic.
Okay.
Because it's pretty crazy.
I'm here for it. Let's go.
But yeah, so trigger warning, saying it right now.
Okay.
If you do like true crime, continue to listen, please, because it's a fascinating case. So we have Fanny and Theobald, the Duke and Duchess. Unlike most of their contemporaries at the time, the Duke and Duchess married for love.
Aw, good for them.
As opposed to,
That just makes me like super sad that she was later murdered.
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like in that time period, it was very much murdered.
You married
you married for
merge wealthy families of nobility or
for wealth or politics.
That's pretty much.
Arranged marriages were a thing, and yeah. Oh, good for them.
So she was 17, he was 19, I think. Okay. Over the next 15, I know. Okay.
I mean,
at the time that was
at least he wasn't 30.
Yeah. Only 2 years age difference.
Yeah, I mean, at that age, you're practically the same age. Yeah. But yeah. Okay. Carry on.
So over the next 15 years, Fanny gave birth to 9 children and suffered a few miscarriages as well. Sad. Another source said 10 children. I don't know if they were counting one of the deceased children. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of not the point of this story.
Okay.
So somewhere along the way, the couple became estranged, at least behind closed doors.
I'm sad for them.
The Duchess was emotional, and the Duke became cool and distant. Whether she became emotional because the Duke was cool and distant, or he was cool and distant because she became crazy emotional and overbearing, we don't know.
Or because they were married at 19 and 17 and were still children and didn't realize actually what kind of people they were going to be. And they didn't get to actually become adults.
But that was,
that was
par for the course.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way things happened.
In that time. It is just sad that they actually
they actually were in love.
They were in love with
and then
each
it just kind of,
So during that time, the time that they had become estranged, the Duchess wrote just massive amounts of letters, very dramatic letters to the Duke. She was very prolific. Her words just poured out of her all hours of the day and night. And she had the letters delivered to the Duke by a servant because they had separate living quarters, which was, again, very normal.
I mean, that is very normal. Yes.
The Duke rarely responded.
Oh.
Okay.
So I get it. You're pouring out your heart and you're trying to, because sometimes like it is easier for me to talk things through letters, like writing things down or typing things out kind of helps me get my words in place better. But also if someone sends me a massive wall of text, I'm going to be like, no.
And just apparently several a day.
That would.
Yeah.
Block,
and like
leave on red.
In this whole case, I'm going to say it now. In this whole case, I don't know whose side I'm on.
Oh, like, I mean, I'm like, this poor girl has emotions. Boy, listen to her. And also like, girl, calm down. Like it's too much.
So I have one of the letters she wrote.
Okay.
This is dated January 28th, 1838. And it took place after an argument that the two had. It says, "Dear Theobald, I am reproaching myself more than you can imagine. I am discouraged beyond words. I feel and see and know all the things that I should do to make you happy, and I want to do them more than you can possibly imagine. I can no longer hope to put things on a footing that will be conducive to my happiness. It is of yours alone that I now think and for which I hope. I make the firmest resolutions, but a state of exasperation over which I have no control causes me to do things for which I am to blame. If only you knew how deeply grieved I am to be making you so unhappy. But the truth is that I no longer have my head about me, and I hardly recognize myself anymore. I used to take such pleasure in life. A spectacle or a fate like today's used to charm me. Now everything weighs on me, depresses or bores me because you are angry with me, and angry with me forever, I fear, unless you have pity on me. I am in a state of mind too violent to last. I shall try to calm myself, but oh, if you only knew what I am going through, you could be less angry with me. I feel that in such a moment, I have a right to your pity and nothing else. You are so kind that I know I can count on you. A little patience, I beg of you, just a little more time before you reject me entirely and give up hope of any happiness. Soon I will be calm, I promise you. I am in too violent a state of mind now to be judged forever.
This woman was 100% suffering from postpartum depression for having 10 children in 15 years.
Yes, she was obviously...
And she was obviously just, oh my gosh, I want to give her a therapist.
Yes.
I'm so sad. Like, just reading that, like, I was like getting so emotional. Like, she's so upset. Like, she's like, I'm just going to put my feelings aside because I just want you to be happy so that you'll love me again like we used to. I'm just so sad for her.
Yeah.
Mental health awareness. Let's okay, if I were a time traveler, I would find some really good therapist and I would be like, let's go help the past. Let's go talk with people in the past.
Yeah.
And help them. Because I like just hearing those words, this woman needed some help.
Yeah. And she did actually have very frequent violent and emotional outbursts that, like, now, yes, looking back, you think, oh, she definitely needs some sort of therapy, and
possibly some medication to help like stabilize moods. And I mean, so sad for her.
Her outbursts unnerved Theobald and the children, but much of the household staff was devoted to her, and she still moved in society. She still kept up appearances, and
masking.
The aristocratic show must go on.
Yes,
but because her outbursts became more and more frequent, Theobald first cut her off sexually, despite her pleading letters. Then he claimed that her increasingly desperate behavior and unannounced visits to the children's domain in the chateau were upsetting to them, and he refused to allow her to see them.
Oh, gosh.
Several of the articles that I read mentioned how much of a devoted father the Duke was. He cared about his children and the safety of his children, and seeing his wife just be erratic around them. Yeah, it's hard to fault him.
Right.
For the choices,
you want to protect the kids, like
let the mom see the kids, because like separating them is just making it worse. Yeah, I like.
Is
again,
this going to turn into
an
episode of Snapped?
So the Duchess felt she was being estranged from her children, and her husband had lost interest in her. She was no longer thin and beautiful like she was when they first got married. After multiple miscarriages, many children, 9 surviving children at least.
Yeah.
Also, at this point, she was nearing 40 years old. She was overweight. She, So that's why she thought that the Duke was no longer interested in her. Whether or not that was the case, I don't know. Because, again, multiple sources said this Duke was very introverted, cold and distant is how he was described. But it's possible that he did still love her, but because she was becoming a little more unhinged every day.
Yeah, you have to kind of, you withdraw and you detach, because it's very painful to see, like, especially without knowing that this might be attributed to a mental health illness or a mental illness. Like, you're dealing with, you're like, she's becoming more and more erratic. That's painful to see. So you withdraw and you detach because it just hurts. Yeah. And you have to kind of be like, this is not the person I fell in love with.
Yeah.
So you kind of like, this is another person who's going through this, and I don't have a way to help them or even understand if like they should be, how to help or whatever.
Like maybe he thought removing himself
from the problem, from the situation.
Yeah. I don't know. So adding to the drama, in 1841, the family hired Henriette de Lucy, the latest in a series of governesses. It was actually the Duke and not the Duchess who hired her. He explained that his wife was not in good health and that he was obliged to concern himself with the education of their children, which doesn't sound like someone who cared about his children. But again, putting this in the time period, the dads usually didn't get involved. The wives were in charge of hiring the governesses and raising the children. Yeah.
So he's like, well, she's not doing it, and I want my children to have an education, so I need to go hire someone.
I need to go find somebody. So this Henriette came with just glowing recommendations. She was quiet, thoughtful, intelligent, a bit homely. She was 30 years old, She had a gentle, composed manner. She was a good musician. She knew several languages. And above all, she was quite willing to lead the dull life that is the lot of a high-class European governess. So her life became these children.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy the amount of...
Every single bullet point you have something to
say. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm interested. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll go.
That's okay. I'm just an hour and 40. An hour, 40 minutes.
Sorry.
So Fanny, the Duchess, had accused her husband of hiring Henriette in order to estrange her even more from her children, which might have been true because we know that Theobald was sort of wary about having his wife around the kids.
Right.
Before Henriette arrived, Theobald had insisted that his wife sign a paper stating that she would not see her children unless someone else, such as a governess, were present. So it's not clear at that time whether he considered his wife an actual threat to their kids or simply a bad influence.
Right. Maybe having someone else there would help her do the keeping up appearances thing.
Yeah, and kind of help
stable
regulate,
visit.
I guess. Yeah. And in the 6 years that Henriette was with the family, the growing distance between the Duchess and the Duke, and just the fact that the Duke obviously preferred spending time with his children and the governess over the Duchess, led to inevitable speculation. The gossip increased when the family, minus the Duchess, traveled to Italy on vacation.
Oh my.
And by then, all of society pretty much agreed that the Duke was having an affair with this governess. One article I read, actually a couple articles I read, said that probably was not the case. Henriette may have been in love with the Duke and, trying to sort of further her own standing in society, even though like having an affair with the Duke isn't the way to do that. The Duke didn't seem to return her feelings. He was fond of her. He appreciated the care that she took with his kids, but there was nothing romantic on his end, or nothing that to suggest anything like that on his end.
Good for him.
From what we know. So Henriette was also very attached to the kids. 6 weeks before the Duchess was murdered, Henriette was fired. And in a letter that Henriette wrote to the kids, she wrote to 2 of the daughters, Berthe and Louise, the morning after her dismissal. She says, "What a night, what an appalling night. May you never in your lives have to spend so terrible a one. Until now, I never really knew what sorrow was. When I wept in your arms, it was peace and happiness compared to what I have suffered alone. Without you, the joy and happiness of my life, I wanted to run to you this morning and implore you to take me away from here. People in this house have been good to me, but they aren't you. They haven't your beloved voices. You, the light of my life. During the night, I was seized by a mad hope that you would be overcome with an irresistible yearning to come to me and embrace me again." So this was from the governess to the kids. A little dramatic.
It was a little dramatic, but like it feels
sort of
like
illustrates
she kind
how
of
attached she became to them.
Yeah, they were like her own children at this point, it seems. Yeah. After, okay.
One of the daughters, a 16-year-old, responded, "If you are unhappy, dearest mademoiselle, so too are we. How I longed to run and say goodbye to you again. You can't imagine the anguish we suffered when we went upstairs to our bedrooms. My mother came to see us this morning. We've already had scenes by the dozen. If we were the only victims, that would be all right. Louise will write you about all the odious threats and her terrible plans. I am afraid nothing can calm the storm now, but you may count on us. We will do anything that we can for our father and for you, whom we love, or rather, whom we adore. If you knew how horrible it now is to be at the Praslin, which we used to love so, the chateau. When we arrived here, I became even more unhappy here than when you left us. Nature seems as unhappy as we are. It has been raining torrents, and the wind has been blowing through the arcades. Dearest, dearest, beloved Azelle, you are our real mother." So it seems like the feelings were returned because the Duchess was apparently making the kids uncomfortable.
Yeah, and this Azelle was her name?
Azelle seemed to be a nickname.
Like a nickname?
Henriette.
Okay. Henriette, okay.
Deluzy was her name.
She probably provided a stability that those kids needed. Like a
she was with
mother
the kids
figure
for 6 years. So.
Who helped, who taught them and helped them and kind of was this stable.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very sad.
So the dramatic letters between Henriette and the children continued back and forth for a bit until the Duke actually intervened and wrote a letter to Henriette saying, I am not going to speak to you anymore about your letters because I always have to say the same thing. Your letters are causing us much grief because of your sadness and your lack of common sense. If you isolate yourself from people, you're going to lose their support and you will destroy yourself. You must force yourself to see people and make new friendships. Nobody is going to help you unless you help yourself. You are caught in a vicious circle. You do not see people because you are sad, and you grow sadder because you do not see people. The more good qualities one has, and you have many, the more one should be in touch with other people. For the last time, and you must believe us, for we three are your best friends. So speaking of himself, and I imagine the two older daughters.
2 oldest, yeah.
You must try to see people. You cannot be too fussy at the moment about whom you see. I am sorry to have to preach a sermon, but I am too genuinely fond of you not to say what I think.
This guy.
So the Duke seems genuinely
Please
concerned.
don't tell me he's a bad guy, because I like him right now, because that's good advice. Like she was so upset about losing this little family unit.
Yeah.
But he's like, you're a governess. Like, you need to take on a new job and find a new focus.
My wife made me fire you. Mm-hmm. I am sorry. It sucks for all of us. We do miss you, but you have to move on for your own health.
And also for the kids. Like, stop bringing, like, it's just kind of like every time they get a letter, like, remember how good it used to be and how bad it,
Yeah. And it's rough on the kids.
Yeah.
So back to the timeline. So Henriette was fired 6 weeks before the murder of the Duchess.
Okay.
That happened in June 1847, the firing of Henriette. Fanny threatened to divorce the Duke after he refused to fire Henriette himself. I lied. I guess she was the one to do it, not him. But that would mean that her family's money would go with her, leaving him much less wealthy, which wasn't really a problem. But something else that the Duchess threatened was she announced her plans to take the children away from him by declaring him unfit to have custody of the children because of his supposed adultery. So at that time, the public still, rumors were flying about the Duke and Henriette having an affair. So she was like, I'm going to use that, and I'm going to get the kids from you if you don't fire her. The Duke was first and foremost an utterly devoted father, and he couldn't bear that threat.
Yeah.
So also in those days, divorce would have severely hampered his daughter's chances of making a good match.
Yeah.
So in an attempt to dispel that scandal, the Duke resorted to murder.
Oh, I liked him.
I know. Like, I have been painting him to be the good guy in this scenario, but he is actually the one to commit the murder.
Oh, I mean, also I understand, but also doesn't make it right. But
it's a difficult situation. Like I said, I don't know whose side I'm on. Like,
I know.
The Duchess was
she obviously
unhinged at this point, but she definitely needed mental help. And maybe early on, just some communication between her and the Duke would have solved things.
Yeah,
and I don't know. It's a bad situation.
I wanted to like him.
I know.
I was fully prepared for Henriette to be the villain.
I know.
I was like, that crazy woman took my family, and I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Oh, so, man, come on.
I have another quick letter from the Duchess to the Duke that also kind of illustrates what was going on in the household at that time. The Duchess, this is just an excerpt from it. It says, "Yes, it is quite true. I did behave in a very undignified and foolish way this afternoon when I came in and found you sitting there, talking with Mademoiselle de Luzy, discussing your political future with a woman who is less than nothing to either of us. I confess I lost my head, and I admit that I behaved in a way that was undignified and foolish. I rushed out of the room, but what did you do? You followed me in such a state of fury that, for the first time in my life, Theo, I felt afraid. Afraid of you, my only love. You came into my boudoir, and what did you do there? You broke a valuable object, a beautiful vase that you had given me when we were still happy together. Ah, yes, you did punish me truly. The other day, when I went to see the Queen, her lady-in-waiting, that kindly Madame de Lolieu, said to me, 'Your husband is very tenderly devoted to you, is he not?' And I had to say, 'Yes.' I had to smile."
Ooh.
Yeah. Bad. It's a bad
you painted
situation.
him so nicely.
I know.
And I'm kind of mad at you.
I'm not sorry. So we're getting little glimpses into their personal lives. And this is actually something that I'm going to touch more on in our after chat session. Okay. All right. The Duke. I don't know if he was a good man who was finally driven to murder by the wife's behavior, or was he a psychopath, or like desperate to get rid of this crazy woman?
Yeah.
Did he actually love the governess?
See, now I'm like, maybe the detachment was like that.
Like maybe it was
like
building on both sides. She was getting
and maybe
more...
he was like already emotionally detached.
Yeah.
From just like humanity in general, and he was just trying to keep up appearances. I'm mad at you. Twisting my brain around this.
So the family had been in Paris, staying in Paris, between their home at Vaux-le-Vicomte and their annual vacation spot in Dieppe. So they were en route. They stayed at a hotel that her father owned.
Okay.
And at 5 o'clock in the morning, servants were alerted by noises coming from the Duchess's room and discovered that she had been brutally attacked and had struggled with her assailant while being prevented from screaming. She had been hit with a blunt object, then repeatedly stabbed. She died soon after staff rushed in to provide assistance. And to the staff's surprise, the various doors giving access to the suite of the Duchess's apartments were locked, all except for... Okay, I'm gonna sort of describe the suite that she was staying in. Of the 4 doors, one gave into the Duchess's boudoir, the second to a public staircase, the third into a dressing room, and the 4th door led into a small antechamber which separated her bedchamber from that of the Duke's.
Okay.
So this private antechamber could be reached by a small wooden staircase from below the servants' staircase, and that's where they had to go to come into the room. The staff came to find that the door to the antechamber was the only one that was unlocked.
Oh, well, oops.
Yeah. The staff walked into just a horrible scene of confusion. The furniture was tossed around. The bed curtains were torn down. There were splashes of blood everywhere. The Duchess lay dead. Her nightgown was soaked in blood. She was sort of crouching against a low chair. And the staff members that walked in and saw this scene very wisely backed away without touching anything.
Oh, good for them.
And they woke up the rest of the house, the rest of the staff, and police were called. The Duchess had her throat slashed and was hit with blunt objects, leaving cuts and marks all over her body. The police investigator who entered the Duchess's bedroom and saw the blood and damage said immediately, quote, "This is not the work of a professional thief or murderer. It is a vile business, clumsily done. It is the work of a gentleman." End quote.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Which brings us to really the only suspect. The Duke was the last person to answer the calls by the household staff, which raised suspicion immediately. Despite the uproar, the windows of his room had remained shut. Everybody else was, opening windows, calling out to people in the street saying, go get the police, because, no phones or anything.
Right.
During the searches in rooms adjacent to the Duke's room, police uncovered the blood-stained handle of a dagger that was kept inside a cabinet, a bathrobe partly washed but still stained with blood, as well as a leather sheath and various items of clothing and paper that were all thrown inside the fireplace and half consumed by the flames. A more extensive search for the dagger's blade produced no result, but it was also found that the Duke was keeping a loaded pistol by his side. Thanks to the hair and bits of skin found on the pistol, the theory that the police relied on was that Theo had intended to shoot Fanny, but had then realized that this would cause alarm. So he used the butt of the gun as well as various other blunt objects that he can find around the room.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, to kill her instead. In attempt to defend himself, the Duke stated that he had attempted to defend his wife from an unknown assassin, but he could not indicate how the supposed assassin had escaped when questioned. And a servant in the household later alleged that upon entering the Duke's room to announce the death of his wife, he found him washing his hands and claimed that this was done to remove the blood. The servant was like, he was washing blood off his hands.
Right.
A small blood stain was found inside the washing basin, and it was documented that Fanny's body displayed bite marks and scratches.
Oh my goodness. This guy's well and truly snapped.
Yeah, definitely, I would say a crime of passion, but not in a sense that we usually think of.
Yeah, not like it was definitely sounds like there was premeditation, because like if it happened like
he had a gun, so maybe it was premeditated, but then he just decided, oh no, I can't, that'll cause noise, I can't do that. But then like all this bloody mess.
Yeah, because I'm like, heat of the moment tends to be, you're in a situation, you're having an argument, and a thing happens and you're like, oh crap.
Yeah,
but this is like 5 o'clock in the morning. The odds of, I mean, I feel like if there was an argument leading up to this, servants would have said, yeah, we could hear them yelling at each other.
Yeah.
So this was
so it had to have been like, tonight I'm going to go sneak in there when everybody's asleep and
make it seem like an assailant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except he forgot to like open a window or allow like anything that would,
like that constable said, it was the work of a gentleman. No idea what he was doing.
Yeah. I'll just tell them. They'll believe me because I'm a wealthy man.
Yeah. The Duke was placed under surveillance. He couldn't be taken into custody right away because he was a French peer, very high in society. Mm-hmm. His arrest could only be arranged with the agreement of his fellow peers. Wow. He was later moved to a prison. I didn't put that part in my notes, but despite the close watch he was under at the prison, while he was awaiting the trial of the peers, he managed to swallow arsenic.
Oh.
And it took him 6 days to die.
Ouch.
Up until that point, and after he took the arsenic in the 6 days that he was poisoned, he was repeatedly questioned. Oh, it was the Luxembourg prison.
Okay.
He didn't confess. He always denied it. Henriette was also arrested and kept in solitary confinement. She actually didn't obtain any outside information about the investigation because she wasn't with the family. She wasn't there. She didn't hear anything about this.
They were just like, go get her.
She didn't learn of the Duke's suicide until 3 weeks after his death.
Oh, my goodness.
She was repeatedly questioned, and the letters she sent to the family were thoroughly scrutinized, but she was never charged and was eventually released. She went to the U.S. and married a clergyman and actually moved in high society there.
Okay. Well, good for her. She did finally move on.
Yeah.
Good for her. Okay. I'm glad. I thought you were going to tell me she was arrested and
no.
like because she was a poor governess and of lower class, just like
they couldn't hold her on anything because like she was not there.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad.
I have a couple of rumors.
Okay.
About Theo and his death.
Okay.
There were rumors that the arsenic was given to him by someone within the court in order to avoid a trial and resulting scandal and sparing King Louis Philippe the embarrassment of association with the murder. They were cousins. Theo and the king were cousins. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, yeah, you didn't mention that. But, I mean, she was like, I just dropped in to see the queen the other day. But okay.
Yeah. So they were very much involved with the royal court. And that's actually why this scandal contributed to the French Revolution, because the people were already losing faith in the royals and their ability to lead a country. And then this scandal happened, and all of the drama, it just kind of weakened.
Yeah. And then like the possibility that they were like, we don't want to be involved with a trial. Like, let's just slip him committed suicide. He was so racked with sorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I mean, yeah, that would definitely, like, in a nation already on the brink of revolution, like, I could see where it would add to the fire of the lower class.
And then there's that Duke and Duchess, like, he murdered his wife.
And he didn't even have to pay, like, they just were like, oop, there was no justice for his wife. Like, it was just, he died. Sorry.
Yeah.
Carry on.
So, another rumor, possibly backed by evidence, but possibly not, says that Theo may not have died of poisoning at all, may have been smuggled out of the country.
Oh.
So one of the articles was amended at the very end, saying that people commented on this blog post that this person wrote about this murder case, saying, bringing up this rumor, because the original author of the article wasn't aware of this.
Oh,
so,
okay.
And I went and found one of the comments, and it says, like in some recent movies, there is an alternative ending to the official story. Many in France doubted that Theobald did actually die, partly because he apparently was buried in an unmarked grave and nobody knew where his body was interred. The thought was that the Duke, related to Louis Philippe, had been helped to fake his death. Apparently, there are American descendants of the Duke who, far from dying in France, made his way from London to New York, then to New Orleans, and, on his way to California, decided to join some German settlers in the northern hills of Nicaragua. In America, before the Panama Canal was built, the Nicaraguan route through the San Juan River, Cosabolca Lake, and a short carriage ride to San Juan del Sur was the only viable link from the Atlantic to the Pacific. According to local historians, the Duke lived in several different cities in Nicaragua. The Duke is currently interred in a cemetery in the city of Dario in Nicaragua. His Nicaraguan-born children and grandchildren's tombs are quite well marked and can be found in the cemetery of the city of Matagalpa. According to the stories handed down by ancestors, he denied having murdered his French wife until his death in 1882.
Whoa.
According to manfut.org, manfut.org, some Americans who visited the north of Nicaragua in the 1850s reported having met two Frenchmen in Matagalpa, one of them a man who went by the name Choiseul-Praslin. And Praslin is a name that can be found in Nicaragua. So,
I got goosebumps. I was like, that is so crazy. So, like,
but then, I was reading through more of the comments, and there's one of them that actually was able to find the autopsy records that they did on the Duke in France after the arsenic poisoning. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of contradicted it. Someone else said that he actually wasn't buried in an unmarked grave, that you can find it in France. I don't know. I would love to.
But if you're the king,
right,
you could just tell your royal coroner to be like, hey, do an
make
autopsy,
up a fake autopsy
quote,
report, and
write it out.
Bury
you know what
coffin.
Arsenic poisoning looks like.
Yeah.
If you don't know what arsenic poisoning looks like, we'll go find a prisoner and we'll poison him, and you could do the you could do the report on that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not what happened, but it could be. It could possibly be.
So there's that, and then someone else said that there were rumors of one of the household staff stealing the Duke's identity and moving to Nicaragua. So it wasn't, and then claimed to be the Duke. So it wasn't the Duke. It was
in the 1880s. Who's gonna?
Yeah, you can't
go
corroborate that.
Yeah, because let's write and see, and that letter's gonna come to France, and they're gonna be like, just throw that away. We never saw it, or it lost in the mail. We don't talk about him. First rule of the Duke: don't talk about the Duke.
Yeah. So that was crazy. It. That's all I have about this case.
You may not know this, but I'm just thinking, were the French Catholic at that time? I'm just wondering, if there were, because I know, confessing to something could affect your religious beliefs, where you ended up at death. So, if he held true and never confessed to murder and died, he's not a murderer.
Right.
And he was never convicted, so he's not a murderer.
But then there's also that very religious belief that if you confess now, your sins will be forgiven before you die.
Yeah, and that's where I'm like, was that a thing? But the fact that he didn't confess all the way up to the end. I'm just I'm
not sure what the dominant religion was in France at the time.
Okay.
Protestant or Catholic,
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I don't I know it switched based on the king.
Yeah.
The king basically was we're all Catholic now.
Yeah.
Or nope, we're not that anymore. We're this new king, new year, new king, new me, new you, new beliefs.
Okay.
But that's interesting.
And that happened a year before the French Revolution.
That's nuts.
Yeah. And
now I'm mad that you made me like him in the beginning.
I know. Well, he seemed fine until he snapped and murdered his wife. There are other ways, my dude.
I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
And a throwback to episode 12.
Yeah. Forensic hair analysis.
That's wild. that was interesting, and I'm quite a little journey that you took me on emotionally. And I'm mad at you again still for.
I know.
I'm sad for the Duchess. Like, it does sound like she really needed some mental health awareness in her life.
Yeah. Anyway,
obviously he probably did too, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Should we draw cards?
Wow, yeah. I forgot we were going to do that. I was like, wow, we're done. Wow, okay. Okay.
All right.
Do the spiel while I get the cards out.
If you would like to hear our And Another Thing after chat with our bonus content that we both have on our topics, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/jessandhids, JESSANDHIDS. You can also find all the links to all the places, except I need to update the website. I know I said that like several episodes ago, but go to our website at jessandhids.com. Yeah, follow us on social media, sign up for our newsletter, but mostly join our Patreon. You can sign up for free. You don't really get much content that way, but you'll at least be occasionally updated about what's going on with us. Yeah, if you want to sign up to be a patron, that would be amazing.
So yeah, we if you'd like to join us on our journey and have some fun along the way and get some fun little merch packets, we have different levels of patronage that you could subscribe to.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's draw cards. I got them all set.
Oh,
out.
You went first, so you get to draw first.
I don't ever get to draw first.
Whoa.
Okay.
I was sitting there reaching for the cards.
I know. I was just going to let you. Okay. Oh. I'm excited. Are you excited? Are you intimidated?
I am very excited.
Okay. Me too. This is one that I've listened to a lot of podcasts on and have wanted to do for a bit.
Yeah, mine's going to be fun. Yes.
Oh. The microphone just shocked me. I'm sorry. I just barely bumped it. And it was like,
yay.
Oh, yay. Okay, sweet.
All right. Yeah, mine might involve a lot of extensive research, but we'll see.
Same.
I haven't actually, I don't know. We'll see. I am very excited. What's your warm ember?
Oh, gosh. Oh, goodness. I did not prepare a warm ember. Okay. You know what? My warm ember is the fact that we did very adult things and bought furniture and carpeting.
We did.
And we're going to organize our office and make it a more relaxed space, but also a more comforting, usable space.
Yeah.
And it's kind of
less
chaotic.
Yeah. We're making a less chaotic workspace for us.
Yeah. So I'm excited. That's my current little fun warm ember thing.
Yay. Okay. My warm ember. What's my warm ember? Zirin cuddled with me last night.
Oh,
it was adorable. Oh, also, you might be mad at me, but last night when I went in my room, I watched K-pop Demon Hunters.
I knew you did. I was like, I went back to the bathroom and I could hear music and I was like, she's watching it.
Yeah.
No, it's okay.
That was actually right when it ended. So
she's like, haha. Yeah. No, it's fine. I kind of I don't mind. I know we'll watch it again. And we talked about watching it last night. I just wasn't in the headspace to focus on it. And I know I'm going to want to pay attention to it. No, I'm glad you watched it.
It was really good.
I'm glad you watched it. Cool.
It makes me want to dive into Korean mythology.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to put it on can I put that on our?
Well, we have a mythology recurring card.
Oh, yeah, we do. We do. Okay. And we also have the K-pop industry is on our topic list because I'm finding just seeing little bits of it is fascinating.
It's fascinating, yeah.
Really fascinating.
I kind of hope I'm the one to draw that card.
I kind of hope you are too because I don't know. I feel like I'm going to go on a billion tangents if I get it. So, but I hope you get it. No, I won't be mad at you.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll watch it when you're in the headspace.
Okay, don't be mad at me when you take your vitamins today.
Oh no, did you put okay, so the last few days I should have said that as my warm ember, but there was an episode, I don't know if it was an episode of the public podcast or an after chat or after pie session. I mentioned that I really disliked.
It was my after chat.
It was the after chat? Okay. I don't like Jack Nicholson. And this has nothing to do with his ability as an actor. he just looks so creepy. So the morning, no, I didn't actually see this until later that afternoon. You printed out a picture of Jack Nicholson and taped it to the bedroom mirror, just in the corner, the bathroom mirror, just in the corner. And yeah, ever since that, like I didn't, I wasn't going to react to it. So I took it and I put it in the fridge on some of the liquid death we have in there because I knew you would get that in the morning. So I did that. And then you put it on my computer.
Yeah. And then you put it on the dresser that faces my bed. Hey, when I woke up this morning, I was like, what? Oh, God, there's Jack.
And so far today, I have forgotten to take my vitamins. And now, Yep.
It's in your... Oh, okay. Well, where Jack be next?
Yeah,
I don't even want to know.
He just is such a creepy looking dude.
And I chose a rather creepy. I think that's from the movie with Adam Sandler. I don't know. It's like his hair's like he's got like a crazed look, and his hair's like all weird. I just picked a really weird one.
Yeah,
I picked one of his more crazed.
He just always has a crazed look. He's not. He looks.
He is an interesting looking character. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Anyway, that's fun. I think I might actually laminate that one so we can just keep...
it's kind of it's getting a little
it's become rumpled. A little it's getting a little rough, but maybe I'll find some more.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, let's go do our after chat for our patrons because I'm excited for this one as well.
Okay. We will talk at you next week.
Talk at you next week.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.